you were here for the first panel, we had the committee. Then we had admission directors from 3 prominent schools. And now we have 3 business school deans from 3 really good schools that I think you'll all want to hear about. To my far right, we have Bob Damon from Carnegie Mellon University's Tepper School of Business. Bob is going to celebrate a very special event in a little over a week.
A week from today, actually.
A week from today, that's right. He will open a brand new building called the CentreCourt. Cost over $200 million.
Wow. Yes.
And Bob, you had to raise 2/3.
That's how I know.
2/3 of that, really.
Yes, that's right.
Which you were able to do.
Yes.
So congratulations.
In just over 5 years, which is not bad.
And then next to Bob, we have I.D. Kestner, who is the Dean of the Kelley School of Business at Indiana University in Bloomington. Great place to be. I don't know how many of you remember that wonderful movie about the bicycle race?
Breaking Away.
Breaking Away, which really sold Bloomington on me and a lot of other people. Welcome.
Thank you.
And then we have a local guy, actually, who is relatively new in your job because you had come from Ohio State where I knew you, Rao Nava, and he is the Dean of UC Davis's Business School. So what we want to do is talk a little bit about the value of the MBA. What do you actually learn in an MBA program? How transferable are the skills? Has the MBA jumped the shark? You know, there are a lot of people who are out there who are naysayers about the MBA degree. That has always been true, I find. A lot of people will tell you, well, you want to start a company, don't go to business school. Use the money you pay for tuition as your seed capital for your startup. A lot of other people might say, well, why go to business school? You can just learn in the school of hard knocks, having a job and doing that job as well as you can and learning what you can. But the truth of the matter is, and I think all of you clearly would agree with me, MBA is a great investment. The ROI on the degree is very high. The satisfaction with the degree based on the studies that have been done over the years show exceptionally high degrees of satisfaction. In most cases, the degree exceeds the expectations of the people who get it. So let me ask a provocative question to start off with. Who needs an MBA and why should they get it to begin with? Heidi, why don't we start with you?
Happy to start. Well, I think an MBA degree is valuable for a lot of different people. And while I do acknowledge that many students who've gotten undergraduate business degrees have probably gone through a more rigorous program in recent years, so they might be wondering, what more will I get out of an MBA? MBA programs have actually changed pretty dramatically. They've shifted the focus beyond just teaching functional level skills into the area of critical thinking and decision making, business analytics, even more advanced topics where you'll tackle machine learning and artificial intelligence and use of technology today. And so I think the fact that you can learn all of those things and really, as you say, jump your career, I'm going to use jump in a different way here, toward more executive level positions. So I think an MBA degree has tremendous value, and I think the fact that you can craft your degree toward what you want to do really means that its value is very, very, it's meaningful for just about everybody who's seeking a degree, a graduate degree.
And here's the other thing that's really true. Business has not become more simple. It's become more complicated than ever, and requiring high levels of skills to be successful. And I think MBA programs tend to deliver that. Another thing that's happening in MBA programs all over is a very big increase in experiential learning. Now, you just put into play, Rao, at your school, these immersion sessions. Talk a little bit about why you did that and what they entail.
One of the things we have done in UC Davis recently is, as we talk to our employers, asking about the kinds of skills they are looking for, one of the things that really came through was this notion of an MBA being able to work with people from STEM disciplines. In general, in the MBA program, we teach them a lot of team skills, but they're sitting in a class with other MBA students and working on teams. But they felt that it would be much better if they can actually work in the classroom, in the MBA program, with people from other disciplines to solve problems at a higher level. So we decided to launch a concept called industry immersions, and this is not new in certain respects, but we are able to do it a little bit differently from many schools. If you take UC Davis, it is #1 in the world in food and agriculture area. So we thought, why not make use of that reputation we have in the food agriculture area and bring those PhD students in those areas into the classroom with our MBA students. And if there are food ag companies that would come into the classroom, senior executives, who will teach them some major problems that they're looking at right now, throw those problems at these students, and they will work in small teams to solve the problems. And it's been spectacular to see the kinds of solutions that came out of the class, which were very different from what you would have gotten if it was just MBA students. So we did this with 4 different areas. And just to give you a very quick example, there was one company that talked about a problem they had because the product that they had just shipped it was told that there was some smell coming from that product. It was an edible product, and they were really concerned. If you normally throw the problem at a business school student, they will talk about branding, they will talk about investor relations, and so on. Because we had PhD students from food agriculture area as well, they actually went deeper into that in 1 hour, did some research on the internet, and actually figured out what the problem might be to cause that particular smell, and they gave a business solution to that after that. It turns out that the company took 2 months to come to the same point, to figure out what the problem was. So putting people from multiple disciplines based on not the strengths of the business disciplines, but the strengths of UC Davis as a whole was the reason why this became so successful. We had 16 departments from around the campus bringing their PhD students to sit in the classroom with the MBA students to solve problems in food agriculture industry, in energy area, clean energy, in biotechnology, in something called tech finance.
And that's a great segue to you, Bob, because a lot of the premise of your new building is to bring a multidisciplinary approach to business education. Talk a little bit about how you hope to do that at Carnegie Mellon.
Yeah, so I agree with what both Heidi and Rao have just said. It's extremely important, I think, for an MBA education today. And by the way, skills like problem solving, analytical thinking, strong management, and leadership skills, those are in higher demand today than ever. And that's why I think an MBA is as valuable today as it has ever been. But the world is much more complex than it has ever been as well. And it's changing very, very rapidly. When you think about how technological innovation, the ubiquity of data, the power of analytics are really transforming industries and disrupting businesses to a large extent. Today's MBA student needs to have a broad interdisciplinary education. No longer is it enough to teach them about the business fundamentals and the different disciplines within business. One needs to go well beyond that. And so experiential learning and working with students and faculty from other disciplines on campus is extremely important. In the case of Carnegie Mellon and the Tepper School, we do have this brand new building that we're in it already, but the grand opening is next week. It is designed specifically to try to bring in and be collaborative with other parts of campus. We want to be a business school which doesn't sit at the edge of the campus, which many business schools do if you look around. We want to be a business school that sits at the center, and our building is located at the center of Carnegie Mellon's campus. So we want to be at the center, not just geographically, but intellectually. We want to be able to bring in engineers, computer scientists, designers, fine arts, to work with our business students, because that's essentially what they're going to be doing when they leave business school. So the building itself is built with spaces in it that are highly collaborative, that will draw in students and faculty from all over campus. The Schwartz Center for Entrepreneurship is a great example. It's a university-wide center, but it's housed, its home will be in this new business school, 8,000 square feet of incubator space that will draw in students from all across campus.
John, if I might add,
Yeah,
from an experiential standpoint, this is also a way that the Kelley School of Business brings in its global focus. So we have our students working on what we call globe-based projects, where they'll study a country and join with an organization to work on a particular project, usually for a nonprofit, a social entrepreneurship organization. And they'll do that prior to traveling to that country, to that organization. And they'll go to that organization, work on the project for a couple of weeks, come back, complete the project, or hand it off to another group. And so experiential exercises are not only taking place in the classroom and with other units on the organization, but we're actually, as business schools, going out into the world and taking these experiential exercises into organizations throughout many, many countries in the world to bring MBA education and the value of that to them.
Right. You know, the other thing I think that's misunderstood about an MBA often is, you know you're going to get your basics in accounting and finance and marketing and strategy and leadership. But what you may not know is that MBA programs are about personal development and transformation. And schools, particularly in the last, I'd say, 10 to 20 years, have devoted unusual amounts of resources into building up that part of the curriculum and making sure that you can do a presentation like a McKinsey consultant, making sure that you can work and lead a team and get the best efforts out of the people around you, and doing the kinds of things that will really make you a success in life and actually have a pretty fulfilled life. Let's talk a little bit about personal development. You have something called Me Inc.
We do.
It's very famous. We've written a lot about it in the Poets and Quants. Why don't you tell people what you do?
Absolutely. So Me Inc. takes place even before the academic year begins. So students come in, we have an orientation, and then we take them through this program, Me Incorporated. It's all about identifying your personal brand, who you are, what you stand for, what you represent. We put you in very challenging situations with the team that you're going to be working with for the remainder of the semester, where you're learning more about your strengths, your weaknesses, so that you can build your own individualized curriculum in order to fill those gaps that you have, not just focusing on the things that you're strong at, but actually identifying where you need to develop yourself further. And then we help you with the curriculum in order to fulfill that. But you have to know a little bit about yourself and your personal brand before you can take that next step. So we put you in these challenging situations so that you really dig deeply and learn what you stand for, what you want out of your future career, and how you're going to develop yourself in order to get there. It's a very specialized program. We've developed it in-house. It's our little proprietary secret, but for us it's a very important tool to getting our MBAs started off right.
Bob, what are you doing at Tepper?
At the Tepper School, I think what's important to understand about personal development, leadership development, is that it is a very personal thing. The days of putting students in a 80-person classroom and teaching them about leadership styles, there may be value to that, but it's not really going to help me all that much. It's really about developing the person. So at the Tepper School, we have what we call our Accelerate Leadership Center. It's a center where that's responsible for helping our students develop communication skills, interpersonal skills, and leadership skills. And we start in the first week when students arrive on campus by putting them through an assessment. It's a 4-hour assessment of their management readiness and leadership skills and leadership ability. And based upon how they're scored on different dimensions of leadership, they go through a series of workshops specialized for them. They go through a series of coursework. And we have hired individual executive coaches for one-on-one coaching with our students to help them really develop themselves as leaders. So it goes well beyond just sitting in the classroom with 80 other students. It's about the individual focusing on their needs and helping them develop the way they need to develop to be leaders in organizations.
And I think in both of these illustrations, you see that it's not a single point in time either. This takes place throughout the entire curriculum. So you might start before classes begin or in the early stages of classes. But you need to be looking for a program that's going to continue that progression throughout the entire curriculum, throughout the entire process. So it's about customization, it's about continuity in terms of what you're learning and how you're developing those skills. It's about the opportunity to apply those skills, to demonstrate that you actually learn these key concepts and that you're going to be able to apply them. And those are important pieces of MBA programs today. And like you, we have individual coaches, we have credentialed coaches who help students on an individual basis. And those are the kinds of things that I think MBAs today need to look for, because it is about that personal development.
Right. Well, what are you doing at UC Davis?
And it's very interesting. It's very similar to what has been described by Heidi and Bob. This year, we have just added one more wrinkle to this process. There was a lot of research that we did amongst ourselves, our alumni, our students, our staff, our faculty. We got together to figure out what exactly is the DNA of UC Davis Graduate School of Management. And the one thing that kept coming up was this collaboration. There is somehow this natural inclination to collaborate. People seem to do things together and take care of each other. So we decided that on one hand, we have a personal development platform for every student, very similar to what has been described. But what is the brand promise that we will be making to any executive or recruiter who comes to campus? At the minimum, we would say that if you come to Graduate School of Management, you will get a collaborative leader. That's a stamp we will put on everybody that goes through the program. So we figured out 4 dimensions of what we call collaboration. One is this ability to inspire others. Second is the willingness to help others to succeed. Third is willingness to learn from others. And fourth is to bring positive energy. So we took these 4 dimensions and we said we have the curriculum that happens in the classroom. We have co-curricular activities, experiences that we talk about, extracurricular activities, and coaching. So we have a 4x4 matrix now, and we're populating that with things that we can do so that everybody graduating will be a collaborative leader at the minimum, plus does the things that he or she is good at. And
right. I mean, one of the things you're hearing too is how MBA programs have changed largely due to market demand. So unlike many academic programs done, many universities, I think that business schools tend to be much more market focused, listening to the customer, what the customer wants. And a lot of the shaping of curricula in the last 10, 20 years has been the result of a lot of feedback from companies that are hiring the product. One major reason why many people go and get an MBA is because they want to switch careers. Is the MBA, particularly a 2-year program with an internship, the ideal mechanism to make a career switch? What do you say, Bob?
Absolutely. I think for someone who wants to change careers, they need to develop it for themselves a new set of knowledge, a new set of skills. And there are very few ways to do that to be successful in the world of business other than an MBA. So I think for a career switcher, an MBA is actually an ideal way to get those skills and get that knowledge. And I think if you were to ask MBA students, a large percentage of them are exactly what you described. They're people, individuals who have undergraduate degrees and are in jobs that engineering or something that they want to become managers. They want to become business people. One of the few ways to do that successfully is to get an MBA. And it's a fairly large percentage of the students that we see at the Tepper School.
Likewise, we also see students who use the MBA to switch careers, but I want to be careful here. There are different ways of thinking about a switch. One way of thinking about a switch is coming from an engineering background or some other background, a poet, if you will, to feed off of poets and quants, and moving into a business profession. But another way to switch is to make a decision, I want to go into a different industry, or I want to go down a different career path. At the Kelley School, we use an academy structure to help students dig deeply down a career path. So even if you have a business background, but you all of a sudden want to move from one functional area to another, or one industry to another, or one career path to another, we use that academy structure to allow you to network with the proper people, take courses that are going to be meaningful, engage in experiential exercises that are valuable for that particular career path. So it is not just a switch from non-business to business. It's also the possibility of switching to another industry. And one thing I might add, while a full-time MBA program is an ideal place for thinking about that 2-year development process for career switchers, we also find that our online MBA program, which traditionally would have someone join the program because they wanted to stay in their organization or because they wanted to advance, maybe get promoted in their organization, they needed to develop their skills. We're seeing more and more students enter our online MBA program with the idea of switching as well.
And I completely agree with them. One of the things I see is, as a marketing person, there are multiple segments of people out there. There are some people who really would like to have an on-campus experience for 2 years, and for them, the 2-year degree is the best option that's available. But then there are some who would say, I would like to go to classes in the evenings or weekends, and so there are part-time MBA programs. There are some for whom the geographical distance is hard to cover, and so there is the online MBA programs, and all three of us actually will be, you already have wonderful programs, and by the way, most of you wouldn't know that Indiana is one of the first places that started the online MBA, and then of course we have a very reputable Carnegie Mellon program as well in the online space, and we will be starting one as well.
Yeah, and this is really unique. It's rare that I have 3 deans, all of them having online programs. The UC Davis program will probably start, what, next year?
Spring.
Next
Yes,
spring.
next spring
Okay.
is what we're hoping. And then there is a whole generation of people we are seeing who would rather learn through online than come to classrooms. And so that's where we are now saying the online makes a lot of sense for them. So the 2-year program is definitely a great experience and will continue to be a great experience, but it's for a segment of people who still want to do it that way. But there is a large segment who would probably want to do it some other way as well.
Sorry.
I was just going to add one more sort of twist to it. So we've talked about full-time residential programs. We talked about online. Our program is perhaps better described as a hybrid program.
Right.
And one of the reasons is students come back for a residential week so that they can network with their fellow students and work on a live case consulting project, which is very meaningful, something that is valuable to do person to person as opposed to simply in a virtual environment. We also allow our online students to travel, just as I described our globe-based trips for our residential program. We have those same kinds of trips for our online students. They're called Agile, and we take them with a faculty member to work on projects and go to different countries. And so there are a variety of different touch points, even in online programs today, which create almost a hybrid version. And I would say students have enormous options. That was the point, and I think it's well put. Just enormous options to choose the right program for you, to find the best fit for the individual student.
Yeah. Our program also has every 6 weeks they come back to campus, and I think that face-to-face contact with not only each other who are in the program, but with the faculty is extremely important and valuable. Plus, they get a chance to network with the full-time students who are there as well. The one thing that sort of you pick up from this discussion is that education and technology is changing in ways that have affected many other industries and is now starting to affect education. It's my belief that at some point, and that point is not too far in the future, people will be able to customize their education for what fits their lifestyle the best. They may do some online learning, they may do some on-campus learning, they may do an internship here on the West Coast and take courses online. They'll mix and match what's best for them at that particular time. My belief, and this is why, by the way, our online hybrid program that we now have allows students to transfer into our full-time program at any point. We're so confident that the quality of that program matches our full-time program that we allow them to switch. And what we're trying to do is make sure people have access to education in the form they want it, when they want it. And I think that trend is going to continue.
So let's talk about something that I know everybody here looks at and worries about. They look at the price tag on an MBA degree and they say, wow, there's sticker shock. What do you say about the price of an MBA? Is it a fair price? When you look at the sticker price, is that an accurate reflection of what people will actually pay? in relationship to the rewards of the degree, short-term and long-term? How does it all play out? Heidi?
The answer is absolutely. It's definitely worth it. And you have to look at the price tag over the span of your career. So the payback is likely to be somewhere around 4 years. In fact, the payback is actually less than that because about 70% of our students today have some form of scholarship. And I dare say it's true for many of the other schools as well. So the payback is even going to be less than 4 years because that scholarship factor is not going to be filtered into that basic number. When you look at the salary that you're going to get coming out of an MBA, for our students, it's going to be on average, I think last year was 110 plus another 25 in signing bonuses plus there were other sort of benefits the students got, which would have been about 12 and a half. So you've got this really nice bump up in salary, almost double what some of our students would have come in with depending upon their career as they entered the MBA program. So the payback, I think, is short. The salary increase is great. You have to think about that over the duration of your career. So quantitatively speaking, it's a great bet. Qualitatively speaking, it's a great bet for all the reasons we talked about before. You're going to be learning skills that put you at the upper echelon of the organization and allow you to continue to make headway in organizations at the most senior level, at the executive level. So I think both for quantitative and qualitative reasons, it's a good thing to do.
Bob, do you have a perspective on the
No,
price?
I agree with that. And it's attractive if you look at the 4-year payback, and actually you're right, it's actually shorter than that when you take into account scholarships. But I actually think that the real value is not just looking at the short-run bump in your salary, it's really the long-run career trajectory that you'll have. You don't have the same opportunities without that MBA that you will have with it. So for me, the real value is not just the short-term bump in salary, but it's actually the career trajectory that will put you on over a 40-year career in business.
Another thing I'm seeing is that the MBA is increasingly perceived as an all-purpose degree in the same way that law had been in the past, because very few people who go to law school actually practice law. What they learn is a disciplined way of thinking. In business school, much cheaper than law school, with employment rates that are far superior to any law school employment rates, seem to be increasingly viewed that way. You get a lot more non-traditional students than you had in the past, people from the nonprofit sector, the government, the military. Why are we seeing so many of these non-traditional students next to those investment bankers and consultants these days? Ralph?
I think the point you made is excellent because the skills that are taught in the classroom and outside in the MBA program are very general, that are widely applicable irrespective of what profession you're in. Because ultimately, if you really think about what you do, you're trying to persuade somebody to do something. Any job that you do, that's what you're trying to do. And MBA basically tells you how to figure out what it is that makes people do what they do, how to motivate them, and how to get success out of that. So the general skill transfers to any profession that you're in, which is why you're seeing people now in the nonprofit area saying, I need that particular skill in my fundraising efforts.
Right.
And there could be somebody who's probably managing a church and say, I need my operations to be taken care of and I need that kind of skill. So the skills that are being taught in the MBA program with all the changes that we have seen, and we are responding as business schools to what the market is asking of us, are skills that would be applicable to managing your life. The Me Inc. actually is exactly the example. That's the business school telling you how to manage your own life. And those skills just cut across almost anything that you do.
Maybe I might add some things that I see in my own institution that I think really reflect this. First of all, we work very, very hard to build a very diverse student population. So we're pulling students from all of these diverse areas. It's no surprise that they have diverse interests and want to go into different kinds of industries and want to utilize different types of skills in those different employment opportunities. The other thing to think about is we have a series, and I know it is true of the other schools, of highly specialized kinds of MBA programs We have an MBA program on our Indianapolis campus called Business of Medicine, which is for medical doctors. Everybody in the program has an MD degree already, but they need to come back and learn about the business of medicine, because medicine is a business, and they can't advance as senior executives in healthcare organizations without that business knowledge. Take the reverse of that, and let me give you a different industry. We have a program called MBA for Educators. Imagine it's an MBA for people who aspire to be principals and superintendents. What an interesting way to employ one's MBA degree. We even have a program, an agreement with the NFL Players Association, where we receive not just NFL players and people who work in that industry, but they're coming back because they're going to be a profession after they complete their athletic careers, right? Those careers could be short, and there's going to be they're going to have to be in business sometime after that. We have over 80 people in that program already. I might add, 4 of our players were in the Super Bowl last year, 4 current players. Wow. So we're very proud of the fact that we take a large group from many, many different industries. It's not surprising to me that they want to go back into a variety of different industries.
Similar for us. We have some joint programs with the School of Medicine at the University of Pittsburgh, as an example, where medical researchers who are developing new technologies, new devices, want to understand how I commercialize those things. And so they come back to get the business skills. And I think we would all agree that we'd like to have some of the nonprofit and our politicians know a little bit more about business and economics, and not so much about the law. So I think an MBA certainly teaches the kind of skills that are needed not just by people who are going into the for-profit world, but also the nonprofit and the government world. And by the way, it's not necessary that they get an MBA to do that. There are plenty of executive education courses and programs that fit their needs as well.
So we are in the Bay Area. This is the epicenter of the startup culture in America. There's a big debate about whether or not, if you want to start a company, you should go to business school and use business school as an incubator, or whether you should just take your tuition money and pour it into your business and just go and do it. Why should someone come to a business school, an MBA program in particular, to start a company? Well?
So having started a company in the past, there are several things that you need to know before you really go ahead and make it happen. There has to be some knowledge of how do you structure your company and what are the advantages and disadvantages of doing that. How do you raise money? How do you do valuation for your company so you don't get shortchanged in the investment process? How do you find markets? How do you define market validation? What do you mean by that? So there are things that we teach in the business school that gets a student started in this process. So there are 2 parts to entrepreneurship. One is you just can't walk in blind, because the lessons you learn will be the lessons learned the hard way. Whereas if you understand those things, then there's a facilitating function that the business schools do. And that's where, through research offices we have or incubators that we have, we provide them access to investors, we provide them access to lawyers, to bankers, and so on and so forth. That, once again, is not an easy process. If you really are somebody who wants to start a company and tries to go to an investor, they don't want to listen to you because they don't know who you are. Whereas if you say, I am coming from this particular school and this program, they're more likely to listen to you. So getting that audience for what you're trying to do is important. Learning how to even structure your company and get into the marketplace is important. So there is an educational component that is taught in the business schools that makes it easier for you. Will you not succeed if you don't go to business school? No, that's not correct. What you're saying is it's easier for you if you understand what you're getting yourself into, and then use the other things that the business schools are providing you to make the path easier for you to travel. Both these functions are served very well by business schools now.
Maybe I could add on this one as well. First of all, I think it's very important to understand that entrepreneurship or entrepreneurship courses is one thing, but there's also something we term entrepreneurial mindset. You have to come and open yourself up to that mindset, and that's the way we structure our entrepreneurship program. It's also very important to understand that within organizations, there's something that we would term corporate innovation. So there's entrepreneurial activities within an organization, and you want to be able to demonstrate that entrepreneurial mindset inside the organization. But I'd like to give you two examples of specific students that I think will illustrate the value of an MBA for people who want to be entrepreneurs. One of our students, Justin Delaney, while he was in the MBA program, worked with his fellow students, came up with a very innovative idea for an online tuxedo rental service. That became Menguin. And he developed the company after leaving and eventually sold it out to Men's Warehouse, and now he's on to other new ventures. But had he not met the friends in the MBA program, had the exposure to the faculty members, been able to test out his ideas, been able to present his ideas in case competitions, I'm not sure that new program would have developed, and the MBA helped him with that. A different example, we have a student, Teresa Cryer, who actually left. She went into industry. She became, I think it was beauty brand manager. But in the process of working in that career, and thanks to the MBA program, she observed that some of the models, as she was going to one of the shows, they didn't want to drink the sodas that were in the back. And what did she do? She created an innovative product, a tea, which has become Big T NYC. She's in New York, and this has become her company. It opened her mind to looking for opportunities. So she was in a different job, but the MBA exposed her to the opportunity to look for things and look for new ways of sort of spreading her entrepreneurial wings. And so those are two examples of people who followed the MBA route and either immediately or eventually became entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I agree with both of the comments that were made. Business school does give you the set of skills you will need to be a successful entrepreneur, and I think having those skills is really quite critical, especially if you're starting your own business. It's not something that you can kind of learn on the fly. You need to really have those skills before you get started. And I also agree with the idea that being on a campus and having this collection of other individuals from other disciplines to work with is extremely valuable, especially for someone that wants to start their own business. I can't count the number of times that a business school student has partnered with a computer science student, an engineer, and a designer to create a company. An example is Robotni, a business student. This is a company that is involved with indoor farming. So they're using advanced analytics and robotics in indoor farming, essentially. And it was a combination of business thinking with a business student, an engineer, a computer scientist, and a designer. And that is hard to replicate if you're not on a college campus. And so I think for entrepreneurs especially, the business skills and the access you have to the resources on campus is extremely important and valuable.
The other thing is networking. In many MBA startups, you find that alumni, faculty, fellow students become investors, early customers, suppliers, hook you up with people that are going to increase the likelihood that you're going to be successful. And that's a rare thing to have, but you can get in most business schools today. I want to open this up for a little Q&A. Is there anyone out there who has a question for one of our deans? Don't be embarrassed. Just ask anything you want. Anybody?
And if you don't ask us, we will ask you.
We're going to do cold calling, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is a really important part of business school. Anybody? Well, let me ask. Okay, here we go. We have someone. What? Okay, let's go there and then we'll go right to you, okay?
Hi, my name is Amelia All. I currently work in the international development sector, and I'm a prospective student, and I'm interested in the intersection of the business world with the nonprofit world. So I've been looking into schools and asking questions around, what how is the changing business landscape affecting MBA programs? Because I'm interested in social business and in conscious and accountable capitalism. And I found that a lot of MBA programs are saying, yes, that's a reality for us, and that is changing how we're teaching, even if we don't have a specific track in social business. So I'm just wondering, from your perspectives, how that changing business landscape is impacting how you interact with students.
Who would like to take that?
I'm happy to take that. Our program does in fact have courses in social entrepreneurship. We have a certificate in nonprofit, which we join with the School of Public and Environmental Affairs. So you get both the business aspect as well as the nonprofit aspect, if that's your interest. But as I mentioned before, we have this program, for example, that we call GlowBase, which allows students to work on social entrepreneurship projects, live consulting projects. These happen to be international. It could be in Ghana or Botswana. It could be in Peru or Chile. It could be in India. I know we had a project in India working with women farmers to ensure that they were self-sufficient. We worked for an orphanage in India as well. We worked for fishermen in Peru to help set up a market for them for their products. And so if you do have an interest in social entrepreneurship, I think you'll find many schools are doing experiential learning exercises in that way, teaching courses in that way, because we understand that's such a great interest for many students out there.
And at the Tepper School, in addition to social entrepreneurship, there are opportunities. We also have a joint program with the college, the Heinz College of Public Policy and Information Systems. It's with the Public Policy School at the Heinz College. So you get an MBA combined with a public policy degree. It's really a joint program. And given where our new building is, they are actually right across the street from us. It's been a very successful program for us. There are a number of our students who are interested in the public policy side, but also want to get an MBA at the same time. And this program allows them to actually do that.
Okay, yes.
I'm Satya, first of all.
Oh, wait for the mic. Thank you.
Thank you so much for providing insights on an MBA can provide you. And you briefly touched upon PhDs working together with the MBA cohort. I have a PhD, and I'm wondering, how do you look upon candidates who already have an advanced degree?
In fact, going back to what we were trying to do, the class actually contained postdocs as well from various disciplines. And that's because the problems that they're looking at are complex problems, not just a simple business problem, let's say. To give you examples, there are companies asking the question, given that 40% of the food that is being produced is wasted on this globe, and then there is an increase in the population to 9 billion people pretty soon, the only way that we can feed people on this globe is by increasing the productivity by 70% on the arable land, which is impossible. So how do you solve that problem, and where do you begin that? That's a question where you have to bring several minds together, and the PhDs are fantastic in terms of structuring the problem, and the MBAs then start thinking about how to make this really accessible to other people as well.
So let me ask you, what is your PhD in?
It's in material science and
Oh, material science and engineering. So would you like to have him in your MBA program?
Yeah, we have every year, 2 or 3 PhD students that have PhDs that come through our MBA program. So we love to have students that have these advanced degrees because I think you know exactly why you want the MBA. And my guess is that you have some entrepreneurial interest as well, possibly. And so we find that those students are very successful in our MBA program anyway. Yeah.
And you're okay with PhDs
Agreed.
too, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And as I mentioned before, we even have a program comprised entirely of medical doctors who understand the value of getting an MBA degree. And so I think your degree would be highly prized by any MBA program because we understand that combination is valuable.
Anyone else? Okay.
I'll project. I'm pretty loud.
Yeah, you are. You're good. You got a good voice.
So this is my jam. Quick question around diversity and inclusion of your faculty. So I know that there's a large, a lot of schools are participating in the consortium and doing a great job in trying to cultivate a diverse pipeline. But when you look at what the institution is currently employing, right, for these faculty, you don't see a lot of faculty of color, right? And so when you think about mentorship and you think about cultivating talent for the future, how are your institutions ensuring that they are getting a diverse faculty that are going to be relatable to the people in this room?
So Heidi, Indiana County was one of the first schools in the consortium to begin with.
We were a founding school.
Founding school.
Got a good memory.
Why don't you start?
I'll be happy to start. I want to start with what the challenge is. If you'll forgive me, I'm going to take a step back just for a second. The challenge is great for all of our schools. We all seek faculty members from underrepresented minority populations. It's very important to every business school today. But not enough students are graduating. And here's my plea for underrepresented minority students, for women, please, 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 go on into academic professions, get your PhD, and come through, because people are waiting to hire faculty members. There is something called the PhD Project. I'm assuming we're all members of that. And that includes scholarships, substantial scholarships for students, underrepresented minority students who wish to go on to academic professions. But for every student graduating from that program, I'm going to take a guess that they have somewhere between 6 and 10 offers, at least, right off the top. And so we are all fighting for the same individuals. And in fact, sometimes we're stealing each other's faculty members. The population needs to grow. That is the most important thing we could do right now. But I will assure you that every school, every one of my departments, and I would attest that this is probably true for every school, has a diversity plan for its faculty, is anxiously pursuing it and helping students go after a PhD so that they can become future faculty members.
Yeah, and in addition to the pipeline challenge that Heidi was just describing, it's extremely important for the schools, and all of us have this, is to make sure that there's a mentorship program in place, to make sure that when faculty come on board, that they get the support that they need to be successful, both in the classroom and in terms of their research. So it's not just a matter of hiring them and getting them in. It's once they're there, you need to do what's necessary to make sure that they're successful. And that too is an important part of the puzzle. And all of us, I'm sure, have those kind of programs in place. Not just for underrepresented minority populations, but for women and others. It's extremely important that they come into an environment that is supportive of the challenges that they face in the work environment, and making sure that these unconscious biases that we all have are dealt with in a way that they can still be successful and get the support they need and the mentorship they need as faculty members. And we try to do the same thing, by the way, with our students, making sure that they're in an environment that is supportive for them.
One piece of good news to add to this is I serve on a lot of accreditation review committees. I'm a board member for AACSB, the accrediting body, and as a dean, I get to go to a lot of schools and visit and serve on review committees. This issue of faculty diversity is raised every single review. So it is very top of mind. It's something that we're all deeply concerned about, and we all want to see this increase.
And I would just add that exactly all the things that have been talked about are being done by business schools because they truly value diversity in the classroom, because we see the value it brings when a discussion happens. Perspectives are different and they add knowledge to everybody. The things that also are happening behind the scenes where all of us are working hard would be, it's not as easy to just advertise your school and expect people to apply to whatever you're doing. You have to really make efforts on the side to make access happen. Many schools literally work hard reaching out to colleagues. So if I have a need, I would be reaching out to ID or Bob and say, hey, I am looking for somebody like this. Do you have anybody in your PhD program you think might qualify for this kind of stuff? And they will help me out, and I will help them out if I have somebody that way. So there's a lot of camaraderie that happens between schools as well, trying to help each other out, because all of us literally truly value the diversity aspect of what happens in a school, from faculty, staff, and students.
Okay, I think we have time for maybe one more question. Anyone out there? I'll ask it. Oh, we have someone out there. Okay. I'm still going to ask my last question anyway. Okay, what do we have?
Thank you very much for your insights. I have a question on online education. How do you see the future of online education? And you were talking before about the importance of networking and the fact that you still have to bring together those online classes, but that might not be a choice for some people who choose online education and who can't maybe travel. How do you see the online education trends? Please.
So,
I'm happy to answer
So
again.
I'll point out that, UC Davis is about to launch an online program with 2U, which is a major provider. They've helped UNC, Keenan Flagler, and Rice University recently launched a 2U program. So that's about to happen, but the other deans here are basically deans of the number 1 and number 2 online MBA programs in the country. So you have people who really should give you a great answer on that.
You're absolutely right.
Pushing the
We're very
expectations
proud
up.
of those rankings. Thank you. Online education is very important today. Many individuals make that as the option that they want to pursue, in part because they may not want to give up their job, or in part because they can't move their family and they want a great education. I will say that at the Kelley School, we use the same faculty across our program. So whether it's residential MBA or online MBA, it's the same faculty members. And so the experience that you're going to get in the classroom, although delivered differently, is going to be identical. You're going to have the same great content, the same great faculty members. The nice thing is that many of the features, I was mentioning it before, that we've learned from our full-time MBA program, we've taken into our online program, and vice versa. We've done things in our online MBA program, such as giving students that experience of a virtual environment, which is so important in today's workforce. And we've brought that into our live MBA program by flipping the classroom and doing other kinds of very unique technology-enhanced activities in the classroom. So I think there's a lot of give and take with programs that have done each well, where they're sharing across those. But technology has changed forever the way we deliver education. There's no doubt about it. And that's why for some students, an online program can be a great choice today, and you can have every bit the great experience. And I think the nice thing from the recruiter standpoint, I would say probably 10, 15 years ago, maybe you might have seen recruiters who were looking at it askance and saying, I don't know about that online program. I don't have any sense that recruiters do that today. They treat the programs as strong, as capable of training individuals in the same way that our residential programs can do it. And that's been our experience.
That's our experience as well. And with respect to your direct question about the coming face-to-face, at the Tepper School, when we launched our online, it's called a part-time online hybrid program because of the face-to-face meetings that the students have every 6 weeks. Our faculty would not approve a new program that was online without that piece of it. We believe that face-to-face interaction with your classmates and with the faculty is extremely important for the learning process. And so we won't deviate from that. The good thing about having a market is that there's a market. You have a choice. There will be many different variations and varieties of online programs, and there will be one that will fit your particular needs. It may not be ours. It may be another. I hope it is ours, but you'll have choice. That's the good news.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Our version allows you to come to class, physically come to our facilities a couple of times. But if you can't make that, we make other accommodations. And so each program will have unique features, and they'll allow you to do different things, and you'll just have to look and find the one that's the right fit for you.
Yeah, and there are online programs that are purely online, and there are hybrids. I tend to favor hybrids because I think they allow for more engagement between the faculty and the students and your other classmates, where you can create lasting bonds that are important. And to one point that was made here, many of the attributes of on-campus programs have now been moved into online programs. And that includes experiential learning, consulting projects, clubs even. There are now online clubs as there would be on campus, alumni gatherings specific to the online audience, graduation on campus, things that you would have normally associated only with an online, with an on-campus program are now common in the better online programs. The future of these programs, I think, is pretty good because if you don't want to quit your job and you want the flexibility of taking an MBA degree, if you're a road warrior and you have to do a lot of travel on your job, an online degree is a really good bet. The fact that employers are increasingly accepting it and that many of the better online programs now bring their online students on the campus to meet with the recruiters who are recruiting the full-time MBA students, that's another big benefit as well. And the technology is improving every day. And it has improved immensely.
It has, yeah.
Since 1999 when you got into the game.
1999 when we first started. And as a school, we've improved the use of technology as the technology has improved.
And the other thing that's happening is that the recruiters now, many of them are just doing their first interviews online. They're not even coming to
I was
campus.
just going to say, a lot of our recruiters do their first interviews online. For our students, I get a chance to interact with them when they're on campus for those weeks. And I frequently ask them, and they tell me that is their vacation, one of their vacation weeks they spend with us, and they'll frequently say it's the best vacation they've ever had. So that gives me great pride.
They work hard because I've been there that week and I've seen
they
what
work
they've
long
had
hours
to do, to present to company executives.
Yeah.
Okay, one last thing. Let's pretend that all the people here are your children and they want your best advice. They want to go to an MBA program. What advice do you give them? What should they be thinking about? How should they frame this in their own head? How do they make the best decision for themselves? Well,
Sort of me. I think the way I separate out things is anything else that happens on campus outside of the business school teaches you how to make something. The business school is the only school on campus that tells you what to do after you make something, how to take it to the market. So if you think that there is something that you have with you that you want to really market out there because there is talent that you are not able to exhibit out there, there are things you can do which you're still unable to do because you don't know how to make them happen, the MBA is the right degree because that's what teaches you how to go about monetizing these skills that you have. And therefore, unless you are comfortable with that, don't get into an MBA program. When you feel that, yes, I really want to advance myself in the field of management, because with that responsibility comes a lot of stress as well. But the stress is rewarded in many, many ways. You would have employees who are happy when you are with them. You have results coming to you financially that you're happy about. You get recognized. So there's just so much that happens which is gratifying. Look at that, look at yourself, and see if that's where you want to be, because you will be making investments of time, effort, and sometimes your reputation to make something happen. That, if you're satisfied, yes, you will be that kind of a person. Go right in, because MBA will get you where you want to go in life. And that's what I have seen happen to many of the students.
Heidi, your advice?
I'm going to take the question in a little different direction. However, the first thing I'm going to do now that you're all members of my family is call my husband and tell him Thanksgiving is going to be a really big table. I'm going to have you all there. I'm going to encourage you to for a moment, put all of the rankings aside. Put all of that aside. And think about what you want to get out of a program. What is it you hope to achieve? What are your skills and abilities? What do you need to develop? What are you looking for? Make a list of those things, and then start looking at the schools that you might be interested in, that you might be able to go visit, and identify those skills that fill those needs that you have, that fill those areas. Finding the right MBA program is not the shortcut of just looking at rankings. It's the long task of finding fit, of finding the program, the culture, the interactions, the kind of learning, the pedagogical approach that is right for you. And different programs are right for different people. Different cultures are going to be right for different people. I find too often people open up a newspaper or a magazine and they take the shortcut, oh, I'm going to look at these programs because someone else's, on someone else's terms, have ranked them a certain way. But what matters most is how you would fit with that program. And so I would encourage you to do the long, hard homework. You're going to make a big investment. It's not just a monetary investment of tuition. It's an investment of your time, the most precious thing you have. Take the time to learn where I fit and which program is going to do the best job for me and my future career. That's what I would encourage you to do.
That's exactly the answer I was going to give, actually. These rankings, the rankings can be very dangerous. And you do need to understand that there are lots of great MBA programs out there. That the difference between rank number 5 and rank number 15 isn't all that great or significant. You do need to understand what each school has to offer you and what you're looking for. I think culture plays a big role in that. There are small schools and there are large schools. And you need to sort of figure out for yourself what kind of culture, what kind of environment you want to be in, number one, over the next 2 years or 3 years. The other thing I would think carefully about is think about what the needs of business are going to be. You're educating yourself for the next 40 years, okay? You're going to have a 40-year career. You need to get the skill sets that will allow you to be successful over a 40-year career. Now, you're going to continue to learn, obviously, after business school, but those 2 years or 3 years of business school are going to be extremely important, and you want to make sure that you're going to be well-positioned to deal with the challenges that are going to be placed in front of you as a leader in the 21st century world of business. So think about what the world of business is going to demand of you and what skill sets you're going to need to acquire to be successful in this new world that we face, and what business school and what MBA program is going to be able to deliver those skills and that knowledge to you. The right MBA program is not the right one, the same one for everybody. You need to really sort of personalize this for yourself, and don't be so tied to rankings. I think that can be very, very dangerous.
Great. Well, I'm thanking all of you. Thanks for being here and sharing your insights. Really appreciate it. Bob, Heidi, Ralph, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you for listening.
Thank you. Thank you.